Okay, so the deal is, I've been using for about 15 years now the Motu HD192 digital audio recording system. And it's got 12 inputs, 12 outputs, a really solid unit. I really love it. It was always been trouble-free for me. Generally, I've been very happy. So, unfortunately, here in New Jersey, we had a severe electrical storm recently which took it out. So I had to do something. I saw that I could go on eBay and buy a used HD192 for roughly 500 bucks or thereabouts. But, I mean, my system is 16 years old. So we all know that technology gets better cheaper. So I couldn't help but notice that Behringer has a system which consists of the UMC1820, which is an 8-channel digital interface, and also the ADA8200, which is a sort of an addition which allows you to add 8 more inputs. So when I say inputs, I mean mic line inputs, 16 channels altogether if you connect the two through ADAT light pipe. So, I mean, come on, 16 digital inputs for less than 500 bucks, that's amazing. I paid $1,500 back in 2004 or 5 when I bought the Motu HD192, and back then it listed for $1,895. Anyway, I'm going to give you the results right now. So I did some extensive testing, which if you stick around and watch the rest of the video, you'll see for yourself and hear for yourself. But I have come to the conclusion that the Behringer system is at least as good as the HD192. The fact that I spent a third of what I did 15 years ago and got a system that's at least as good, and in my opinion, slightly better than what I had then, is pretty extraordinary. I was very pleasantly surprised. So if you want to see the results and hear the results yourself, here they are. All right, guys. So this is Logic. These are 8 tracks of drums. So basically, I've color-coded the different takes. So this top one is one take through one interface. I won't tell you which one yet. And the bottom one, the light-colored one, is the other interface. All right, anyway, so I'm going to play the whole thing. It's 24 bars. Here we go. Okay, soloing the kick. Here we go. Here's the other interface. All right, and I'm just going to bounce between the two. Okay, so let's go to the snare. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, first 2 bars of one interface. First 2 bars of the other interface. All right, I'm just going to jump between the two without stopping. Okay, so FYI, there's a 57 on my snare, which is going through a custom tube preamp before it hits the interface. And on the kick, I have a D112 going through a Focusrite Octapre. Now the overheads. Two Sennheiser 414s, stereo overheads. Here we go. Okay, first two bars of one of the takes. First two bars of the other take. Now I'll just bounce between the two. So, the first thing you hear is the Motu HD192. Now this is the Behringer 1820. All right, so did you hear a difference? So what I want to do right now, for those of you that are interested, is I'm going to show you my signal chain so you get a sense of the drums I'm using, the mics I'm using, what they're going through before they hit these interfaces. Okay, guys, so everything starts with the drum kit, obviously. This is my beloved Gretsch kit. This is a maple kit from the 80s, die-cast hoops. Great drums, I love them. They never leave the studio. So as far as signal chain, so let's start with the bass drum. I've got a D112 on the kick, and it's just outside of the sound hole. I get a good combination of attack and, resonance. Okay, now up here we've got two AKG 414s. 1, 2. All right, so now coming around back here, the hi-hat is an SM81 on the hi-hat, so that's also picking up this trash crash. The snare drum, the tried and true SM57. And then finally the toms each get their own Samson Q72. All right, so that's it. So here's the rack. I just installed the ADA 8200 on top. Below that is the 1820. They're connected via light pipe. Below that is my patch bay. 2 and 1, 2 are patched through this patch bay, and then they're being routed to channels 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the ADA 8200, which in Logic means channels 11, 12, 13, and 14. This is my kick. This is my snare. All of my drums are going through the last preamp I have, which is the Focusrite noise floor. So whenever you have any audio devices that are inserted into a signal chain, you're going to get some type of noise from each individual unit. So I wanted to see what type of noise floor was going to be introduced by the preamps in the Behringer stuff. I have to say, these preamps are really quiet. I cranked the volume all the way up and plugged the mic into the input on several preamps, and I'm not saying there's no noise floor, but there was no significant noise floor, really. So that was really impressive. All right, so very quickly, the features of this. First, the 1820, which is the digital audio interface. Each channel has its own input knob. Each channel has its own pad button. Each channel has its own line instrument button, so you can switch between the two. And like I said, there's a mix knob, so you can change the monitor mix from the computer's main output or the units or any combination thereof. There are also two headphone outputs, each with their own separate volume knob, each with their own output select switch, meaning I can monitor main outputs 1 and 2 or auxiliary outputs 3 and 4. So I have a separate headphone mix coming out of Logic, which is going to channels 3 and 4. Also, because there are 10 individual outputs on the 1820, I could conceivably have more than one headphone output, which is separate from the monitor, from the main outputs. So it's very versatile in terms of outputs. And I think feature-wise, that's about it. There's phantom power, but there's groups of 4, so channels 1 through 4 would get phantom power, or channels 5 through 8 would get phantom power, or both, or none. And on the ADA8200, which is another 8 mic preamp inputs, the phantom power switch would provide phantom power for all 8 inputs. I'm not saying it's the greatest stuff in the world. I can't really compare it to the Focusrite Scarlett 18i20, which I was seriously considering as well because I didn't have that. But the fact of the matter is, for the price of that, I was able to get 16 inputs as opposed to the Scarlett 18i20's 8 inputs. So that really kind of tipped the scales for me. My budget was ultimately the determining factor here. I didn't have several $1,000s to go trying a bunch of different audio stuff and make a decision. I had 500 bucks. Bang for the buck wise, I think this is a really good deal. I think that if you want more than 8 inputs, you should definitely give this stuff a serious look.